Richard, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Michael.
During the Iowa caucus, there's an opportunity for the representatives of the candidates to talk about their main issues that they believe in for their candidates. What I saw on the grassroots level was people talked about health care, universal health care, safety, the borders, immigration, all these things that are very important. One person spoke on gay rights and civil rights. So in a time where all these things are incredibly important to the people of this country, where does civil rights and gay rights come into play?
Well, one way I'd answer that is that, gay rights, gay politics have taken something of a backseat in this election. I think that's an appropriate choice. I mean, we have an occupation in Iraq. We have an unfinished war in Afghanistan that we need to get out of. We have 45 million Americans without health care. We have an economy that is sinking every day. We have the greatest income gap this country has seen since 1928. Right? The top 300,000 Americans made more money last year than the bottom 150 million, right? So these are really big issues, and they cut across gay and straight America. They cut across black and white America. They cut across all Americans. In terms of, sort of the way gay rights will sort of play out in the elections, you have to look back at 2004. And that actually, if it played out at all, was to the Republicans' advantage. They ran these incredibly fear-mongering campaigns around anti-gay marriage initiatives in all these states. They turned out, waves of religious right voters. So I think going into 2008, it's a good thing that there are not that many of these initiatives on the ballot. And it's also a good thing that you looked across at the Democratic candidates, and they didn't shy away, right, from gay people. They didn't shy away from appearing on the Logo debate, which was held, the historic debate for presidential candidates. They haven't shied away from mentioning gay people in their campaign speeches. Barack Obama says there's not a gay America, there's not a straight America. So I think, gay issues and gay people, right, have been, involved in this campaign. I think they've necessarily sort of receded a bit as these very pressing, very urgent issues have come to the forefront.
You talked about 4 years ago. Where are we now? Where's this movement going? We have the web, which is influencing the movement. Is it what we saw, holding hands and singing songs and soulful, or is it more of a new age of activism?
The way I would answer that is to say I don't think we have a movement anymore, a singular movement. Some of this is because, after Lawrence v. Texas, the Supreme Court case which overturned Bowers v. Hardwick and legalized sodomy in this country, there was a kind of splintering off, and even before that, right? So you have people that are very invested in getting gay marriage or some form of civil union on the books. You have people that are looking at Don't Ask, Don't Tell, trying to get that off the books and have gay and lesbians openly serve in the military. You have a really vibrant trans movement, right, that is formulating all kinds of new politics around gender expression in the workplace and identity. You have gay people concerned about other sort of progressive issues that don't really speak about them from just a gay perspective. People advocating for universal health care, people looking at income inequality. A great group that I'm involved in, Queers for Economic Justice, that looks at the way wealth disparity impacts and poverty impacts gay people. So you have a lot of people, right, doing a lot of different things, and I don't think that's actually a bad thing. Right? I think it's a sign of maturity, actually, of a movement that has achieved a certain basic level of legal protection and is now looking at other forms, and people are prioritizing their sort of, political action in a different way.
The 80s and 90s, ACT UP, activism, Larry Kramer, the guy's been quoted as saying, "We will not accept crumbs." The passion that was fighting for the gay and lesbian movement at that time. Do we see the same passion in the movement today?
The thing to remember about ACT UP is that, it wasn't just a gay movement. It had a sort of queer energy at its heart, but there were drug addicts involved, sex workers, lots of people of color, actually, who haven't then been documented as being ACT UP because many of them sort of died earlier than the sort of wealthier white folks who are in ACT UP. There was this kind of anarchic creativity there. And what did they take on? They took on pharmaceutical companies. They took on the NIH. They took on the CDC, right? They took on government interests. And they politicize AIDS and death and disease and health and all these things in a way. What might we learn from ACT UP? Actually, one of the great victories on the healthcare front, one of the only victories on the healthcare front in the past 20, 30 years has been ACT UP. If you are HIV positive in this country today, you will be provided with the necessary medications, either through Medicaid or Medicare, or private insurance, or through ADAP, the AIDS Drug Assistance Program. That was an ACT UP victory. So we need to go back and look at how they did that, right? And get universal health care for all Americans in this country. And that wasn't, you're absolutely right, that wasn't by being complacent. That wasn't by just pushing through little legislation here and there. It was about holding massive demonstrations, taking over the stock market, throwing ashes of dead lovers, right, on the White House lawn. It took direct action. And I think we may need that today when you look at the sort of entrenched interests of pharmaceutical companies, the medical lobby, who are going to block, right, any plan for universal health care.
If you show up to any march or go to any gay pride across the United States in any major city, you see a multitude of companies that are selling products.
You know, it's a sort of tricky thing because the sort of presence of gays and lesbians on TV, in advertising, all that stuff. You know, I'm not going to say that it has had no impact, particularly in shaping the sort of opinions of younger people around you know, sort of queer visibility. You know, I would say, you know, look at the gay pride parades, which are now, this is sort of unimaginable, right, 10, 15 years ago, but supported by Absolute Vodka and Subaru or whatever, you know? And I do think you lose something right in there. You lose a kind of community building aspect of it. And to a certain extent, gay people have become just another sort of niche market, right? And that's happened, that's a sort of, you know, plight of kind of diversity in this country, right? That you market things to African Americans that are under 35. You market things to older lesbians who have a dog. And you know, that's sort of like where we are. And you know, that's a sort of larger corporate capitalist kind of sort of media saturated society we live in. You know, I don't know what that spells going forward, but you know, there you are.
Gay marriage.
Yeah.
Arguably the biggest initiative, the top priority for the so-called gay movement.
I think the main problem here, right, is that we've sort of narrowed our conception of what families, kinship, queer sort of social arrangements have been historically, right? And now we have this kind of idea that this one-size-fits-all thing, marriage, is going to help all gay people. And it's not. And the reason it's not is because it doesn't actually help most heterosexuals, right? Most marriages end in divorce. The majority of people now live in unmarried households, right? You have both heterosexual and gay people having all these sorts of creative arrangements, raising kids together in unmarried households. Someone might be the person that you turn to for your health care. Someone else might be your roommate. And then another person might be someone named on your will to inherit your property and income should you die, right? So you have all these very creative arrangements with gay people, right, pioneered, right, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? So where is that diversity going to go, right? And to my opinion, the fight for gay marriage, you know, while I believe in full equality, you know, in front of the law, has sort of short-circuited, right, this other kind of creative energy, right, about improvising kinship relations, improvising legal arrangements. And I would finally say, right, that that's what most Americans need now, right? It's not just a gay, straight issue. You have all these people who are raising children outside of marriage. You have all these people that live in these sort of naughty, interesting kind of households, right? So to raise gay rights as a civil rights issue, right, sort of really narrows the way families look.
You've written about gay media consolidation. How is that going to affect the movement?
Well, you know, I think it's a kind of mixed bag when you look at it. You know, you have Planet Out Incorporated, I think that's what they're called, and they own both The Advocate and Out and all these websites. Then you have the sort of Blade chain, that's a sort of chain of independent gay newspapers. So in terms of print publishing, you know, there has been this consolidation, and I think that's a bad thing. I think it sort of has limited the diversity of voices. But then you look at the internet, right? And there are all these fantastic, fantastic gay blogs. And they kind of actually remind me of the magazines like 20 years ago. They're sexy, they're kind of cheeky, and they have an ironic tone, and they also cover politics, right, in this sort of day in, day out way. I'm thinking of Billerica, which is this great blog, and Aravosis has this really great blog out of DC, and all these sorts of people that are just, blogging, having group blogs, and I think that's the kind of future, actually, of gay media.
I hope you enjoyed watching In the Life. Now in our 16th season, In the Life is the only independent voice for the LGBT community. Because we air on public television and the internet, we are not influenced by advertiser demands or the need to chase ratings. This allows us to bring you the most credible, provocative, and relevant coverage of the people and issues shaping the gay experience. But we can't do it alone. Please join us today by visiting our website at www.inthelifetv.org and clicking on the Donate Now button. As an In the Life member, you'll be producing television that truly produces change.